Scotland, July 2012. 1 minute, I'm standing on the beach at St. Andrews, admiring the view and enjoying conversation. The next minute, I'm on the ground, and something is terribly wrong with my wrist. While I apparently had tried to break my fall with my arm, in truth, the fall broke my arm. I'm in incredible pain, cradling it, swearing like the geologist I am, and not letting anyone else take a look at it. So why was I on the beach that day? I was on a trip of a lifetime, a tour of the geology of Scotland, a geo tour, if you will, that was organized by an old friend of mine. There were 14 of us tourists, 2 trip leaders and a bus driver. Most of us had never met each other, but we were a companionable group and we were enjoying ourselves immensely. And then I fell. My accident happened about a quarter mile from the nearest road, so there was no option but to hike up the trail, my companions doing what they could to guide and comfort me. When we got to the clubhouse, St. Andrews is known for their golf courses, right? So there are lots of clubhouses there. I settled onto a fancy upholstered chair in the lobby, and I realized I must have looked quite a sight. I had wet and dirty clothes, tear-stained face, grimacing in pain. And after an eternity of about 20 minutes, our bus driver pulled up to take me to the emergency clinic. The next 3 days are kind of a blur of hospitals, traveling with the tour group, and waiting. I could tell you about the pain and the anxiety of that time, but in my memory, the suffering is vastly overwhelmed by the generosity and kindness of others on that trip, as well as the astonishing beauty of the Scottish countryside. My travel mates became my support system as I dealt with a crisis away from my family and familiar surroundings. They cut up my food for me. They tied my boots. They carried my backpack. My roommate helped me dress and pack every day. I packed my suitcase. The first time I looked at my suitcase, with a broken arm, I just cried. It was not good. But she rushed in and took care of it. The trip leaders modified the trip plans so that they could accommodate my surgery and my hospital stay. Even the hospital was filled with small blessings. In the orthopedic ward, I shared a room with, get this, 4 other women. 4. Very different, I think, from here in the US. And I was surprised at the unexpected comfort of their presence. As best we could, we offered each other courtesies, shared snacks, fetching things, sharing information about the hospital's routine. Because of the kindness and support and care of those good people, I was able to rejoin the tour, and I'm so glad I did. Although the details of the geology are extremely fuzzy, because I broke my writing hand, I couldn't take notes, I was able to soak up the delights of the Isle of Skye. And in particular, I will always remember visiting the Quiraing, which is an awe-inspiring and haunting landscape at the north end of the island. I could have sat there for days, watching the clouds drift over and the light change. It was magnificent, and I felt so in awe there. I will always remember this trip for its beauty and generosity. Well, in Scotland, I had no choice but to receive help and care from others, whether I liked it or not. And perhaps because I didn't know my companions well, I tried to be gracious and thankful. But once I got home, and especially after the cast came off, but I was still hurting and weak, I struggled with asking for help, and I struggled with receiving it. I wanted to be independent again, and I was so frustrated that I couldn't be. I was confounded by the many simple things I couldn't do. And when David or the kids came to my rescue, I was often too irritable to be gracious. I needed time to recover both physically and mentally. I needed professional help. therapy for mind and body, to get to a place where I could once again embrace, well, no pun intended, the delights around me. I hope that if you are suffering in any way, that you seek and find the kinds of care that you need. And I'm here to support you on that journey. I want you to know that. And I think we here in this community are here to support each other on that journey. And no graciousness needed. There are days when that's not really possible. Now, it's easy to judge our suffering, to say our troubles are a small matter when compared to those who suffer through war, violence, abuse, long-term debilitating mental and physical health issues, major losses of all kinds. Life can be far more brutal than I have ever known. And I do not want to suggest that anyone living through traumatic events or physical or mental health care crises can make them better just by paying attention to the beauty around them. To do so would be to trivialize the pain and to blame people for not fixing their hardships. I know there are people suffering today in this moment for whom no consolation is available, and my heart breaks for them. I pray for an end to their suffering. I pray that someone is showing compassion to them. I pray that they are being comforted, or they may be comforted. And I pray that by remembering this suffering, I and all of us may become a little more compassionate, a little more comforting to those we are with, a little more driven to work for peace and justice where we are now, which is the only place where we can act. Going back to that sense of guilt that we may feel at times, guilt comes from empathy and can motivate us to help others. Yet it needs to be tempered by realistic expectations of what each of us can do, and it needs to be balanced with gratitude for all that we have, with recognition of the blessings and delights in our lives. It needs to be balanced with moments of loving grace that transcend the human drama and give us glimpses of heaven. Take a moment to assess the gifts in your life. By and large, those of you in this congregation live in safety and comfort relative to many people the world over. We generally have access to resources and safety nets that, it must be acknowledged, are not evenly or equitably distributed, but they are available. And those of us with relatively more comfort and privilege have the ability and the hopefully the will, the responsibility to make them more available to those who need them most. Yet, as Ross Gay says, it is rude not to acknowledge the delights in our lives. Or to put it another way around, to acknowledge it's important to acknowledge the delights in our world. And to acknowledge them is to show reverence for the world around us. It is to feel gratitude for the abundance, the generosity of the universe, if you will, and for all the unearned, unexpected gifts that come our way. Whether you're a theist or an atheist, mystic, a humanist, an agnostic, why not see the world as conspiring to shower you with gifts? A viewpoint that astrologer and author Rob Brezhny calls pronoia, as opposed to paranoia, right? In his book about it, he writes, more than any other vision I've ever tested, pronoia describes the way the world actually is. It is wetter than water, stronger than death, and truer than the news. Its song is your blood's song. Pronoia says that being alive on this rough green and brown planet is the highest honor and privilege. It's an invitation to work wonders and perform miracles that aren't possible in any nirvana, promised land, or afterlife. He then quotes Elizabeth Barrett Browning, who claimed, "Earth's crammed with heaven." I love that. Earth's crammed with heaven. The beautiful gifts of our lives serve as fuels for our actions and as a reminder of the potential for peace within each of our hearts. As the song says, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me and with all of us. If we mean that truly, then we have to do whatever it is that cultivates peace within us so that it can start here. For me, at least, that means noticing, giving thanks for, and even feeling a part of the beauty and blessings of everyday life. The poet Rosemerry Wahtola Trommer addresses this idea in a poem called "Why I Smile at Strangers." It is inspired by the quote from Blaise Pascal, "In difficult times, carry something beautiful in your heart." I'm going to read the whole poem for you. "And so today I walk the streets with vermilion maple leaves inside me, and the deep purple of late blooming larkspur and the lilting praise of the meadowlark. I carry with me thin creeks with clear water, and the 3/4 moon, and the spice-warm scent of nasturtiums, and honey in sunlight, and words from Neruda, and slow melodies by Eric Satie. It is easy sometimes to believe that everything is wrong, that people are cruel and the world destroyed and the end of it all imminent. But there is yet goodness beyond imagining. The creamy white flesh of ripe pears, and the velvety purr of a cat in my lap, and the white smear of Milky Way. I carry these things in my heart, more certain than ever that one way to counteract evil is to ceaselessly honor what's good and share it. Share it until we break the chokehold of fear, and at least for a few linked moments, we believe completely in beauty, growing beauty. Yes, beauty." I am grateful that I carry in my heart the sense of awe I felt in the Scottish queering, and the awe I felt so often here in Northern California. I carry in my heart the kindness of a woman packing my suitcase for me, the tenderness of a man buttoning my jacket. I am grateful to carry in my heart the delight of looking out at all of you. It's quite a sight. Think for a moment about something that brings you a sense of delight, a sense of beauty, a sense of belonging, or a sense of peace. Let us counteract evil by honoring what's good in our lives. Let us receive with grace the gifts that surround us, the compliments that come to us, that we may share them, celebrate them, rejoice in them until peace and beauty are our constant gifts to the world, and may delights beckon to us all along the way. May it be so. Amen.